So in Beauty and Black the last time, that robbery on Horace went completely wrong. Mallory is trying to bribe that the lawyer. Jules has been exposed. Kimmy and Angel are on the run. And Body got bodied. Wanna know what happens next? Child, stay tuned. Hey, y'all. Welcome and welcome back to my channel. This is Lighting Up with Letitia, and I'm Letitia, your host, and we are back with the second part of Tyler Perry's Beauty in Black. This is episode 9, and it is called Blind Rage, and I'm telling you, it came back with a vengeance. Here we are, right back where we left off, and Kimmy is still burning rubber on Body. Child. Finally, Angel steps in, jumps in the car, but it doesn't even matter because at this point, Body is gone. Now, going back to Norman, child, he gets a call from the judge. Remember, Uncle Horace told him to come and see him. So he is calling Norman like, okay, your brother called me. I want to know, what does he want? Should I go or should I not go? He said, listen, I lost my wife. So basically, I ain't trying to hear what you're talking about, but just go ahead and go see my brother. And, the judge is like, listen, I want to know if I'm walking into a trap. Only thing I did was give lighter sentences. Now, Uncle Norman was like, no, you know damn well that you was making your whole retirement on the women in the strip club, and they were laundering money through that particular club. Go ahead and go see him. Who are you more afraid of? Go see him. And Norman hung up on him. Child, at this point, I just feel like you already know. It doesn't matter which brother you're going to be dealing with. They both are Crazy. Okay? So just strap up and get your butt on over there and just be ready for whatever. Now, meanwhile, the yellow Lambo, child, it is still burning. Roy comes onto the scene and he is crying, talking about something. Is that my brother? Is that my brother? He's visibly upset. And for some, that might be surprising because they didn't seem to even like each other or get along. But when it comes down to it, I think most families, even if you don't get along, they still love each other. So you could tell, we know that Roy is emotional anyways. Anyway, he's asking, he's trying to get into the rubble and everything. They're like holding him back and everything. Then Horace shows up, and the police do give him confirmation that they believe that the man in the car all burnt up is Charles. And he wants to know what happened. He wants to know everything that's going on. So he told Mallory to tell everyone, get to the house right now. Now, child, in the meanwhile, Miss Olivia, Auntie Olivia, she is getting it in with some youngin who can't seem to keep up, child. And that's exactly what she told him. Hand me my cigarettes. You can't even keep up. And in this conversation she's having with this young boo thing, it is revealed that she is the one that set up Uncle Horace, child. Why am I calling him Uncle? Anyway, she's the one that set up Horace, and revealed that those robbers that came to try and take over his house or whatever, they were sent by her. And her young thing, it was the one who set it all up. But he said that they never came and met him at the warehouse like they were supposed to, and we know why, because Horace blew them all away. Okay, so then she starts talking about this money and complaining that, he only gives me this little stipend, talking about Horace, because don't forget, he's her ex-husband. And the youngin was kind of like, well, you living all right or whatever. She says, no, I want it all. Because if Horace, dies, then her sons, he's going to try to make sure that her sons don't get it. But she wants the sons to be able to get it. But there's so many stipulations in this will that was put in place by Horace and Norman's father. So there can't be any kind of foul play going on. Otherwise, people are going to be forfeiting this money, the shares in the business and everything, right? So here go young thing talking about I think his name is Tony, but he was talking about how he loves Olivia. Them young girls ain't got nothing on you. I love you. She was like, nah, you just love these pockets. So anyway, Mallory ended up calling her, telling her that it was an accident. And Olivia guessed right away, oh my gosh, is it Charles? Is it Charles? Is he dead? Is he all right? So Mallory just says, I'm sorry, but Horace wants everyone to meet at the house, right? So she immediately, meaning Olivia, immediately thinks that Norman has unalived her son. Now, meanwhile, Mallory is making calls at this point. Child, she wake up Varney up out of his sleep to tell him that there's been an accident. Charles is presumed as dead. Oh my gosh, Varney gets very upset. He quickly gets dressed and heads out because he has to get over to the house as well. Now, meanwhile, Angel and Kimmy are driving around aimlessly, and Kimmy is screaming. She's visibly upset, and you will see it that throughout the season, the rest of the season, she's going to be hollering, "Where is my sister? I can't find my sister. I need to find my sister." All the while, her sister Sylvie, who we know is 16 years old, has been kidnapped by not Belinda, Delinda and Body. So she's hollering at Angel, "Call Jules, call somebody. We need to figure out where my sister is." And meanwhile, he is trying to calm her down because she is being very irrational. They're arguing at this point. Finally, he's able to calm her down just a little bit. Now, Jules arrives on the scene and Charles's watch shows up. Now, I could have sworn when he saw the caption on the back, because it was inscribed, I could have sworn that he said that it said to Charles Love, and then he stopped. So it didn't say who it was from, but I was like, was that watch from Varney? I don't know. Maybe we'll find out more about it later on. But anyway, so basically, Jules is telling them they need to conceal this evidence that they find. And speaking of Varney, he shows up at that point, and that's why I think he knows already. I already think that Jules knows about Varney because he seems to know much more than he lets on for sure. And so Varney is basically just gathering information. He's trying to gather himself. In the meanwhile, Jules calls Norman, asks him if he did this. And I'm telling you, y'all know that Norman is completely unhinged. And he was talking about eye for an eye. He was like, "Yeah, I fried that car and I watched it burn." So Jules is like, "Oh my gosh, but you can't be getting your hands dirty. And this was just way too sloppy. You really need to be out here laying low because Horace is looking for you. Olivia's going to be looking for you. And we need to figure out what Horace is up to." Now, Norman was like, "You don't need to be worried about Horace. So you need to be worried about is Olivia because she is the one." Now, he also told Jules that Harold, the judge, is also going to see Horace as well. Now, Jules gets all up in arms. "He better not roll on us." But just know that Jules stays working, maneuvering folks, maneuvering things, switching up things, and making up stuff, as we'll see a little bit later. Now, meanwhile, back with Angel and Kimmy, and for some reason, Kimmy calls her trash ass mama. Does and calls to ask about what happened with Sylvie and everything. Why did her mama say y'all bees are so ungrateful? Sylvie just decided to leave. No, doggone well she didn't just decide to leave at 16 years old. Anyway, how do you just let your 16-year-old just decide to leave? So, Kimmy is asking her, well, who did she go with? How much did they pay you? Now, she didn't say nothing, but she was like, "I know they paid you something." So why then did her mama start ask her about, "Oh, you've been lying to us. You said you was a nurse. Instead, you out here being a stripper." The nerve of her mama sitting here judging her when you just left her out on the street. She wasn't even 18 years old yet. You only gave her $10, and you expected for her to make the most beautiful, awesome, wealthy life for herself. I mean, what skills did she have? You contributed to the fact that she had to become a stripper. And really, she's caught up in a life that you let her get into because you did not keep her safe. Anyway, she said, "Listen, if I don't find Sylvie by tonight, I'm coming to see both of y'all." And I said, "I know that's right, Kimmy. Okay, go and confront them." Okay, so back at the mansion now, child, Jules and Varney show up first. And they confirmed that it was Charles. They apologized and everything, but they did mention that the car had been ambushed. First was splattered with bullets, and then it got burnt up, got blown up. And they realized that it was at the very same place where Norman's wife was run over, on that private road. Olivia comes blazing in. She's highly upset. She talks about the fact that she knows that the car was shot up and burnt up. and she wants to know what is going on. Where is Norman? Mallory is trying to calm everybody down. Olivia and Horace start arguing like the divorced couple that they are. And they, I mean, you can just tell how much they hate each other. I mean, it's so ridiculous. But they each are in agreement with the fact that they need to find that Jacob Norman, because where is he? He tried to he unalive my son, and this means war. I don't care what anybody says. He may not like his sons, but baby, that don't mean you get to touch him. So anyway, at that point, Roy speaks up. He's like, why are y'all looking at me like that? Why are y'all looking at me? Did y'all, were y'all hoping it was me? Child, now at first I was like, why is he making it about himself? He stayed paranoid, but he goes into this whole monologue about the fact that I know y'all was hoping it was me. Y'all always did hate me. You never gave me any hugs or anything. You gave everything you had to Charles, but you didn't have any time for me. You were too busy for me. You two sucked as parents. And instead of just taking it and taking it all in and trying to understand and seeing that their son is hurting, Olivia picks up a dagger and throws it toward him, purposely missing. But she said, don't try me. But the truth is, they were sucky parents. These parents hate their kids so much and talking about the fact that they ain't nothing, they don't do nothing. But who raised them? You did. Moving on. And at that point, seriously, I truly did feel sorry for Roy, because he was just speaking up for himself. And for the first time, we see him be very honest about his thought process. He was not high. He was sober and thinking and talking, and they just dismissed him like they always do. So he goes outside. Mallory follows him, but she doesn't follow him because she's a supportive, loving wife. She did so just for show and explicitly telling him, I only came out here to show your parents because I know that they're going to be looking. I need them to think I give a F about you, even though I don't. And by the way, I don't love you very much. She kisses him, hugs him, and then goes back inside. She is so fake. Oh my gosh. I mean, she was talking to him all crazy too, talking about the fact that basically, like, one, Charles being gone is actually a good thing, because that means that there'll be more shares for you since you're the only son left. And what are you going to do without the money? Because he's talking about he didn't care about the money. Now, that can't be true. But at the same time, he's not, nobody's acknowledging the fact that he is hurting, right? But she said, well, what are you going to do without it? You don't have any skills, no talent, no money, you know? And then she goes back inside. She is so rude and nasty. I mean, and I feel like she was just being intentionally cruel to him, and I like I said, I felt sorry for him. Anyway, Angel and Kimmy, they're at a chop shop, basically getting another car, and Kimmy is frantically on the phone. Rain ends up calling her, and she tells her about Sylvie. She also told her what she did to Body, and she said that she is not going to let those people break her little sister. And at this point, Kimmy is like I said, unhinged beyond she's just totally irrational at this point. At this point, it's too late. She's up beyond everything. So she gets to call in. Rain called Angel, like, please keep an eye on her, because I know she's talking about going to Jules' house. She's talking about going to Horace's house. Promise that you will not go there, whatever. She's like, well, we need to find Delinda. Now, Rain says she has Delinda's address. So she does agree to give them the address. They do so. They got in their car, and then they left to head over to Delinda's house. Now, Mallory and Varney are talking still at the mansion, and Varney is visibly distraught. And he just wants to be helpful. He said, what can I do? Whatever. And she tells him to go get a suit. And I'm like, for Charles. But for what? If he got burnt up in the fire, how in the world, what are you going to put a suit on? Like, what is going on? So he in this stupid conversation, he's like, okay, I'll go get a suit. I'll go get it from his house or whatever. And when Mallory mentioned, okay, I'll make sure there's a key available, he said, I already have one, child. He almost told her himself. He said, well, I mean, I know where to find one. But remember, I told you, I think Jules already knows about them. I think that Mallory also already knows about Varney and Charles as well. But moving on. Mallory's acting very callous, telling him he needs to control himself because he was getting emotional about Charles. And then Varney goes to leave. He goes to the home. And by the way, Charles's home is so beautiful. It was this gorgeous white couch. that Varney was sitting on. I was like, oh my gosh. I just sat there and just watched that scene a couple of times because the couch was just so gorgeous. Anyway, he was sitting there crying and grieving. And then the next thing you know, we see a silhouette walking past him in the hallway area. We're like, what the heck? And then the silhouette comes back and Charles is there. Now we already knew that Charles wasn't really gone, child, but we didn't know he was gonna show up at the house. They was checking everywhere but the house. They never tried calling him. They never came by the house. They never went looking for him or anything. They just assumed because the watch was in the car that was Charles, and that was it. So the scene was hilarious though because Varney is like visibly shook, and Charles is like, "What? What's going on?" The two of them together was just so funny. He was like, "I thought you was dead," So he said your car got burnt the hell up, and he's like, "Oh yeah, some switcher. I mean, some stripper bee drugged him and stole his car and his watch." And Charles, I tell you, he is so unserious because he was sitting there laughing about the whole thing, and talking about some, oh, okay, the car got burnt up. Oh well, that's what he deserved. And then finally he comes to the realization, like, oh my gosh, my car got burnt up because y'all know he loved that yellow Lambo. And then he realizes also, oh, so I was targeted. And here goes Ronnie trying to explain to him that his family love him. He like, her family don't love me. He said they're suffering. They think they're crying, they're upset or whatever. He said, well, if they're suffering, then let them suffer a little longer. uh, so anyway, so then now we're back at Angel and Kimmy, who pull up at Delinda's house, and Kimmy jumps out with a sawed-off blicky. And Angel like, what are you doing? Where are you going? Now, sir, you just drove her there. What did you expect for her to do? You didn't think she was going to go in? She already on one, so why are you not understanding that she's about to go in here and do some damage? So, child, she threw a chair into the glass door, busting it open, yelling, where is my sister? Child, she had the strength of Hulk because while she had the sawed off blicky in one hand and picked up a chair, hit Delinda with it, knocking her around. But child, Delinda, she ran off at first, but then she rose up on her behind and had the best of her. Finally, Angel walks in, and he starts to hem her up. Now he finally got some balls, and he's telling her, where is her? Just give us the information. Delinda like, like the bottom B she is, she like, I ain't telling you shit. Okay, I'm not telling you nothing. So who you think you are? You think you Wonder Woman or something? Where were you when your sister was being passed around? You think you talking about you being a nurse. You ain't a nurse. You was just a stripper and you ain't doing nothing. She talking mad crap while they have a whole blicky on her. Right? And so, like I said, Angel had her hemmed up a little bit. Kimmy yelled out one last time, where is my sister? Why did Linda say she's getting passed around by a bunch of truck drivers? And that's all that Kimmy need to hear. She cocked that thing right to the dome. Delinda slumped to the floor, and that's all she wrote. Child, that was episode 9. Oh my gosh. I mean, that's 2 bodies on Kimmy. She is not playing with these people about her sister. Now, episode 10 is called Power Struggle. And we are here back at the mansion. Olivia is waiting with Horace because they're waiting on Norman to get there, arguing about who is going to take Norman out. Child, Jules finally comes in saying that he has someone on him. We're looking for Norman, and but they ordered him to go find Norman himself. When he meets Mallory outside, Mallory asks him, "Okay, well, what's the plan? We need to do something. You need to figure out a way to blame some stranger, somebody. You need to blame somebody for the death of Norman's wife." So they're trying to find somebody that they can blame that accident on, even though we know Mallory did it. Mallory must have something on Jules because she was acting like she was the boss and not Horace, that Jules would keep that secret. Jules cannot be trusted. Okay, so anyway, Calvin ends up calling Jules and telling him, child, there's Whole disaster at the motel. I don't know what's going on, but it looks like something is going on, and we know that the body is laid out on the street, and that's the rundown of the accident. Jules arrives, tells the officer basically to keep everything under wraps, don't call any media or anything like that. And they bring over this old dummy called named Debo, who talking about he saw everything, and totally mentioned Kimmy's name and how she did this to Body. But this is what I'm saying. He was talking about the fact that Kimmy was always nice to him and stuff like that. She was the neighbor. He called her by name. And I'm like, well, if Kimmy was always nice to her, nice to you, why are you snitching on her? You sound crazy. And that's another thing too. I'm like, stitches don't always get stitches. Sometimes they get worse than stitches. Because now they have identified. Remember Mallory said, go find somebody we can blame this on? He don't even know he about to be the sacrificial lamb because he won't shut the hell up. That's crazy. Just crazy. So anyway, they enticed him to come because it was basically like, okay, you can make some money tonight and you can get as high as you want to, whatever. So they took him, and then Jules told Calvin to go find Kimmy and to go find Delinda. Now Angel and Kimmy, child, she's still asking for her sister. Talking about call Jules. She's again just being very irrational. And Angel was like, we don't have any power. And she's like, no, you don't have any power, but I do. I left her once, her sister, and I'm not doing it again. Either you're in this or you're out. Now back in the mansion, child, they still can't find Norman, but Olivia and Horace are still in here arguing, and they are both very hell bent on exacting revenge on somebody. They're hoping Norman. Now Horace starts coughing all of a sudden, and Mallory tries to help. Now Olivia's like, listen, I don't know. He got a butler for that. I already tried to tell you before that this family is either gonna make you a slave or make you a demon. And where the F is Norman? Finally, he like, here I am. He walked right on in. You know, Norman like, listen, I heard you was looking for me. Here I am. So he walks in, and Olivia is too through. She like, listen, I don't care if he didn't actually do it or not. The attempt on my son's life was enough, and that's all I needed to know. When he comes in, he's like, y'all act like we supposed to be this big happy family. Y'all know doggone well y'all are just like me. We are all, he talked about the fact that they had all these stipulations in the will, and they got it, the fact that they're so evil they got from their father. He said we're all greedy sons of bees that don't know how to love, and ain't that the truth? But he says, but I loved my wife. And Horace is like, but you got her from out the mail though. At least you could have done was gotten a young one. And here goes Norman. What you mean? You talking about young? You don't want to talk about no young ones. Now, like, must be a story there. Must be a story there. Now we already know that Horace lives a double life. But that comment about being young, a youngin, young people, I'm like, was Horace doing some old dirt too that we don't know about? I don't know. But anyway, Roy stands up to leave. Norman tells him to sit down, whatever. They all arguing and hollering and carrying on. And the next thing you know, all nonchalantly, Charles and Varney walk in. Charles, sit down. What y'all doing? Take a seat or whatever. They all looking like, what is going on? So that, Varney explains that someone stole his car, basically. And Olivia was very happy to see him and everything. So, but Norman, he didn't give a damn about no reunion or nothing. He like, why was your car in the same lot where they found my wife? So Varney came up with the fact that at some point, again, his car had been stolen. And it sounded like the car had been stolen a couple of times. That's weird, but okay. Anyway, it had been stolen. He backed up off of it. Then Jules comes in with this stupid dude, Debo, talking about they have a video of these young kids who accidentally they were going to come to the house and try to rob them and accidentally hit Norman's wife. So Norman is ready to go off, ready to unalive this boy. And Jules wouldn't let him. No, 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 no. Don't worry about it. We're gonna handle him. We're gonna handle it. It just, just back off. We'll take care of it. But meanwhile, Angel and Kimmy, now they just on a spree at this point, just out here driving in a stolen car. Car don't have no place like it's supposed to. They just riding dirty out here. And they pull up at her mama's trailer, bust up in there, said, I know you sold my sister, how much and where, who did you sell it to, whatever. They were like, what are you talking about? I bought the car, blah, blah, blah. She's like, you can't afford the car. And my thing is, if you was gonna bust in there, why she come in there busting in there empty handed like that? Because she sure didn't go to Delinda's empty handed. She should have been ready, locked and loaded in case something did pop off. And then of course it does because uh girl, she picked up a frying pan and hit the boyfriend, the mama's boyfriend, the one that used to touch her. Yes, hit him, and then I don't know how he got up from that because I mean, a frying pan is made of steel, and she whacked him really good. He gets up, he get to fighting her, or whatever. Meanwhile, Angel on the outside talking to Rain. Rain like, get in there and help her. You don't know what could happen. That dude is crazy. Thank God she does because he was throwing Kimmy all around and punching her and everything. Next thing you know, Angel comes in, tell him to back up off her. Child, let me tell you something. And he gets Kimmy out of there and everything. But you know what? He should have been blowing stuff away all the way on the way out. If nothing else, he should have popped that car all the way. He should just splattered that brand new car that they got all up. Because why you leave there and then didn't take nothing? I mean, you know how Denzel say, I'm leaving with something. I'd have done some kind of damn damage before I left up out of there. It just didn't make no sense. You going over there to confirm that too much talking. You're doing too much talking. If you that unhinged, take it all the way away. You get the answers that you was asking for. But I digress. I'm doing too much. So anyway, she vowed to get them. Kimmy did. She said if it was the last thing that she did, she was gonna get them. Now Varney and Horace, they at the house. They're at Horace's house, and he told them to make himself comfortable. They were going to have some drinks by the pool and everything because he wanted to talk some business. Meanwhile, the butler comes in to say, "Hey, the judge is here." So he goes to meet the judge in his office, and he gets right down to business. Horace is asking Harold, when was the last time you talked to my brother? And he claims that it wasn't a while back or whatever. He tells him that his son was unalive last night, even though we know, and now he knows that Charles is alive. He is still playing this part so he could get some information from Harold, the judge. And so, but it hasn't hit the presses yet. What's going on with you and my brother? Tells him to take a cigar from this box. So Harold was like, oh, no, I really don't smoke. No, no, smoke with me. Get you a cigar. Child, he picks a cigar. He said, no, you picked the wrong one. Pick the red one. Child, the red one was a stick of dynamite. He said, put it in your mouth. Now, I'm going to ask you one last time. As he lights his own cigar, putting the fire very close to the dynamite stick, I'm going to ask you again, what do you and my brother have going on? So the judge tells him that, well, he came to me a couple of years ago about a money laundering scheme. He said, I already know all that. What's the deal? He said, well, when you turned him down, he came to me and he bought a couple of strip clubs and also some dealerships, and they began to wash the money through those. He only made a few million, made a few million. He said, oh, so my brother was that desperate for money for just a few million. Child, he didn't like that dynamite stick, but he took a sharp object and put it right in the middle of the judge's hand and sat there and finished having the conversation with him and told him, you better be glad that I chose this over the dynamite. Now get up out of my office. Child, these people are ruthless. Oh my gosh. Meanwhile, Calvin pulls up at Delinda's house, goes inside, see her slumped on the floor. Child called Jules, gave him the update. And so Jules is like, oh, he sent a cleaning team, told him get a cleaning team and go find Kimmy. Now, meanwhile, the judge then left all bloody and everything, but Horace walks his fine self right on out there to the poolside with Varney to have a drink. As if he didn't just get finished threatening someone's life. But anyway, Varney was admiring the wealth and the splendor, and Horace was like, "Listen, I hate my sons. They're ungrateful, never worked a hard day in their life. And I'm definitely disappointed in Roy talking about the fact that he has, a drug problem. And he was like, if it wasn't for Mallory, he'd be out here sucking ducklings and talking about how disgusting it is with his hypocritical self because he liked it too. Moving on. And he says, but he asked Barney to look at the will again because when he dies, he does not want them to have the shares. And so Barney told him, he said, well, I've gone over this with you and your brother. It requires that you have a wife. So he even Horace even goes so far to talk about Varney. Because by the way, now you're talking about he using all of he's being very homophobic in front of Varney, and Varney is looking like he always looking kind of like a deer in headlights and everything. And then he goes on to say, "You're so smart, Varney. You should have been my son." And I'm like, oh, if only you knew. Okay. Angel and Kimmy, child, they are still looking for Sylvie. Angel told her it's gonna be hard to find her if you keep taking out the people who knows where she is. Then we're gonna need to go get some gas soon. We need to go back to the motel. Angel's like, we're not going back to the motel. She's like, okay, fine. Then take me to go see Rain. So they go to see Rain, and Rain suggests that Angel goes to the club to go find out what's going on. Now, Roy and Mallory, child, Roy comes into Mallory's office while she's working. She ain't trying to be bothered with him, but he's sulking and talking about um that if you don't care and they don't care, and he might as well be unalive. Now why he went to her for comfort in the first place is beyond me. Your wife doesn't like you. She doesn't love you. Why would you go to her for any kind of consoling word? She's gonna say something crazy. Which she absolutely did. She told him basically, do us a favor. He said he could just jump out this window right now. She was like, well, that would do us all a favor. Then all of a sudden he talks about who you've been effing. Now that conversation just became very random, and they're back on that same thing that they were on before, where they're trying to figure out who they're each sleeping with, which I'm thinking, like, why do y'all care anyway? You don't even like each other like that. And so he finally leaves, but he runs into Calvin in the hallway, hams him up and he decides that Calvin is the one that Mallory has been sleeping with. And even though it's the truth, Calvin was not about to admit that. He was like, well, actually, I'm actually more attracted to you, sir. You know, Roy didn't like that mess. He was like, back up off me. And he walked away. But it's just so sad because you could tell that Roy is in a lot of pain. And he goes straight to his office and starts sniffing that stuff again. Now, he was clean for all these days. Actually, I don't know how long it's been. But he was clean for the most time that we've seen him. And now he back on that stuff. So meanwhile, Kimmy is at the hospital and she is talking to Angel as he's getting ready to go to the club and try to find out what's going on and everything. And he basically reports back that, it's been really quiet. There's been no news and no police there at the motel or anything. Then next thing you know, Kimmy gets a call from who? The sniffer himself, Roy, who tells her to get her tail over there by noon, talking crazy to her like he normally does. And Rain thinks that Jules may be trying to set her up and decide, tells her not to go. But she was like, no, I'm still going. And Kimmy is on one right now, so we don't know what it's going to look like when she actually gets there with Roy. But she is not in the mood, and she's also not dressed to go over there with Roy, but we will see how that happens. Anyway, that was the end of episode 10. So, like I said, it has come back with a vengeance. It's a lot of stuff going on for the rest of this season. I'm telling you, it is completely explosive. So don't forget to tune in. Whenever you see me upload a new video, I'll be uploading them 2 at a time, just like I was last time. So this is 9 to 10. And then also catch me on the live panel discussion for episode 10. We already did 9, so check that out. We're going to do 10 tomorrow. That is Tuesday evening, along with Monique 69 Ways, VKJ TV, Tika Deshawn, and the Lawrence Report. So don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe, especially if you've made it this far in the video. I appreciate all of your support. We're on the road to 500 subscribers, so don't forget to click that subscribe button. And I will talk to you next time. Until then, holla!